So I want to get, and I need to be mindful of time. I want to get into your role now as a bike race promoter, because you took this job on, which you just said is a lot of work, and you work for the city, and you also decided somehow, I guess because you had to stop bike racing, and that created a void or something like that, some extra space in your life, or the need to, I don't know if the need, but is that what happened? Did you stop bike racing and you looked around like, what can I do to help racers in the community, or why did you get into race promoting, race organizing?
The thing is that I didn't want to stop racing bicycles, but the thing is that my health went down very badly, and I had no way to continue racing. I overtrained very badly, so my immune system went very bad down, and plus I have some other health issues and stuff. So literally, only I think by end of December last year, I finally recovered.
Okay, so it took you like 2 years or so. 2.5. Wow. Yeah.
2.5 years. At this point, I feel normal, but in the same time, I trying to be very careful because
don't want to risk it, right? Yeah.
I'm not a young kid and I don't recover that fast,
Yeah.
And since I have some health issues, I don't want to make it much worse.
Yeah, for sure.
And since I couldn't race anymore, I was trying my best. I became Cat 3, and as soon as I became Cat 3, it was a huge step up because the distance doubled pretty much, the time almost doubled, speed, and you have people from other countries like national champions and stuff like this.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the time you end up in the 1-2-3 race, right? And then and then it's a big step from Cat 4 to 1-2-3. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe up to 2015 in New York City, those Prospect Park and Central Park races, all of them, and Floyd Benefield races, all of them being only fields of Cat 1 to 3 together, plus 4.
No Cat 3 separate, is what you're saying, or
Yeah. So 1 to 3 together, and then Cat 4, 5, or Cat 4 and 5 separate.
Yeah.
But as soon as you become Cat 3, you have no way to get upgrade points towards Cat 2.
It's tough. Yeah, I think it's changed since you stopped racing. Actually, there's been more Cat 3 races, partially because of you too, because you've been organizing races that are 2-3 or 3. Only a 3-4.
Actually, Charlie made the first step on that.
The Charlie Eisenhoff, I've interviewed him here, who is organizing the Prospect Park race now only.
Right.
He did and used to do Tuesday nights, and they have 3-4 now at Tuesday nights, right? And they have 2-3, 3-4. They have several options for threes. Really, it's gotten a lot better in terms of the men's side, I should say, because women is a whole another story that we can talk about a little bit too. But yeah, so it's gotten better that way. Yeah.
Right.
But for you, it was tough
because
between the health and that step.
Yeah. So I was like, I can't really race. I'm a captain of bicycle team, but I was like, okay, I can be like just a manager at this point and stuff like this. But literally, it was a situation that almost every year Horace been saying like, oh, I quit organizing bicycle races and I'm not going to organize bicycle races anymore. This year something extraordinary was happening in 2018 that actually he didn't sign up to run races again.
This is Horace.
Horace Burns,
He used to organize the Thursday night series,
Right. So I think it was like end of March, and first race was scheduled to be in the beginning of April,
as it usually was.
And Liam Richmond, friend of GP Rorich, he called me and he literally begged me, Alex, please I signed up to help JP to organize those races, but I can't do everything on my own. I need help.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I say like running a team, organizing is
Right.
race organizing is a lot of work.
I was like, yeah, but I was planning to organize races when I will retire. He was like, look, I need your help now.
So he knew that you were interested generally because you had talked before, or why did he call you up?
I think the owner of Horizontal Bicycle Shop mentioned me and recommended me.
Okay.
And literally, he was like, look, I need your help. I was like, okay, fine. I'm not really risking much because, I was unprepared, so I knew that something will definitely go wrong.
This was March. The race was supposed to start in April.
We had literally
you had no preparation
2 weeks.
for this.
We had 2 weeks to get everything ready.
Yeah.
And we didn't know people to put a race together, marshals, this, that, how to get permit from USA Cycling.
Right. But you were permitted with for Bennett Field, so you had that permit ready to go, and that was everything. That was everything that was ready. That was the only thing that was ready.
It was the only thing which was ready, and permit was in the forest name, which I found out later on. Because if I knew that it's in the forest name, I probably would have not signed up, because I was like, why should I run it?
Right, and that's tricky for a variety of reasons, right? So that makes sense.
Right. So. I was like, okay, what do you need me to do? He said, okay, can you do with race results processing and registration? I was like, okay, I will do this part, and you try to organize equipment and marshals. So literally every race was a nightmare. I remember that I spent 6 days working every day back and forward with the race results from the first race.
Yeah.
Because USA Cycling officials they were present, but they didn't really give us results for some reason. And then we had video, so I had to watch the video back and forward.
To the video.
But video wasn't good enough, so some people I couldn't figure out who it is. So I had to contact teams and asking, do you know who is this guy? Do you know who is that guy? You know?
Okay, yeah.
So literally, slowly but truly, I made all the people in order and stuff like this. And then it was another nightmare, because to get those results posted at USA Cycling, they have very confusing requirements. Looks like those requirements from 2 different systems which they used to have before.
Yeah, their back end is not the cleanest. At least it didn't used to be. It's been a while that I've done that, or I've been involved with that. But they look like old systems. Yeah.
Right, and
they might be better now. I don't know. No.
Once you know, at least when you have a sample, then you can do it the same way.
But again, you only had 2 weeks, so you had to create all this on the fly.
I had no sample.
Yeah, right.
Who is going to give me sample?
Yeah.
Forrest won't give me a sample, because he quit racing, and he was like, guys, you are running racing 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Then I'm not big friends with anyone else who is race organizer like Charlie or CRC.
Yeah, you didn't have the connections, right?
I was like going to come to Charlie, like, Charlie, can you give me one of your race results file which you uploaded to? He was like, who are you?
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know what information is included there. Maybe some private information there,
Yeah, of course.
You can't really give private information to somebody off the street.
Yeah.
So I had to call several times to USA Cycling and over the phone with them, try to fix the field names, fix the values. Then after I uploaded, most of the results didn't come out right, and on their web page I had tried to fix it.
So you threw yourself kind of in the water and you had to figure out if you could swim or not, and you
Right.
managed. I think I went to some of the races that year on the Thursday night. It worked, right? I think you made it happen. I don't remember it being on the racer side particularly obvious that there was like everybody was new to it, kind of, right? And the results always used to take a while anyway, right? I think timing things and all that have gotten a lot better. So from that really rocky start, where you learn everything kind of on the fly, like everything as you are doing it, you're learning it, kind of.
Right.
That's 2 years ago now, right?
That was 2018, so yeah.
And since then, you've really branched out. You've tried to explore new race sites. You've had, this year especially, a couple of time trial locations out on Rockaway and out on up north in Westchester County. You did the time trial in 2019 on Palisades, so the River Road. You have opened up Randall's Island to a race course there. You've really scouted it out and you're making it work, which I think is a great little new addition to, especially if you're a beginner, like for like a smaller course. Maybe if you're a smaller field, it's a really good starting point because you learn how to corner too. Hopefully you do, because and you have to learn how to ride in the wind, but hopefully you learn how to corner because you have to corner. And so despite all that craziness, or maybe because of all that craziness, you decide to stick with it and keep building it, kind of. Is that why, or did you like it? Did you like providing races to people? Did you like there's CRCA, there's Charlie with Prospect Park and Tuesday night. That's it. Those are the options. If you're not in CRCA, then you have even fewer options, right? Because then CRCA has a handful of open races, but
the thing is that you see, my main goal to build a team was to help talented people, right?
Yeah.
But when you're organizing races, you have much more opportunities and abilities to help talented people.
Okay.
So I strongly disagreed with some race organizers who put only 2, maximum 3 fields at their races, and it's the same exact thing over and over. And in that case, women, for example, juniors, they have no races available. And you know, it's been that way for years. And
yeah, I think we can be clear on that. If you're a junior, there's practically no fields in New York City all year round. I might be incorrect that if it's a state championship, I'm sure, I know that Grant's Tomb had that, but let's face it, it's very limited. It's maybe a handful of opportunities, and if you're a woman and you're not in CRCA, it's pretty tough to find a race as well.
Yeah, but
that's a woman, female.
I believe that CRCA didn't really have women field even like 3 or 4 years ago. I think they started that field recently, no?
And they've been getting better about having a separate development field, so 2 fields. They have that more often. Before, I'm not sure if they've always had, so again, my experience is only 4 or 5 years back, I think always had a women's field then. Prior, maybe a different story, but I think as leadership cycles.
I don't know that much about CRCA, but that's how it looked to me. Because I heard them complaining to Charlie in front of everyone in the end of the race, saying like, Charlie, why don't we have women's field in Prospect Park?
And I think, and I just want to say, this is not like an uncommon complaint, right? This is a constant issue, at least the way I see it. And I've organized a race back in Arizona too. The issue is always, you need to make money, or you need to at least break even as a race promoter, right? You need to not lose money.
Right.
And what do? You try to offer fields that hopefully will end up having big field sizes, so a lot of people register and that's more money in your pocket. And you look at the women's field, right, and the first instinct is to say, well, there's only going to be, let's say, 10, 20, 30 riders. So that's the field that maybe you don't cut, but you combine, and all the women together, maybe with juniors, maybe with masters races together, or it's only 20 minutes long or something like that, right? And that's what ends up happening from a purely economic point of view. I think that's how you approach it, right? So how do you, is it the same for you? Do you have the same conflict, or?
Yeah, the thing is that I see why Charlie doesn't have more than 3 fields, because by USA cycling you can't put more than 3 fields at that course simultaneously.
No, and I think we all know that that's impossible.
Right. Yeah, and since it's impossible to make more than 3 fields, Charlie has to choose what categories he is going to get in. So this way I see that since Park gives him only 1 hour of race time.
Yeah, it's a little more, but let's say that it's right. Yeah, it's very little.
It will never be junior women there possible, pretty much.
Not as a separate field, right? Maybe there you could do combined field but separate scoring, but even that's complicated, right?
If you even try to make a combined field and stuff like this, it's going to be a total nightmare and total nightmare.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
which is why Charlie keeps it simple, and he says these are the 3 fields, and he has spent some years figuring it out. So that's why I say I can't blame him for doing that, right? But what is this? So what is the solution? And I think you have explored other race courses where you can maybe run
for a longer time. So since
which is very hard in New York City, right? I think around the country you find the crit that's over a weekend, and then they have some venue from 7 in the morning until 6 at night. That's what I did. Like I had as much. I maximized the daylight, then I ran as many fields as I could, right? And that included women's fields and all that. But even that is hard. You tried and you kind of made it happen, but even that.
Yeah. So
you did weekend races at Floyd. You did weekend races at Randall's Island. You had women's fields there. You had like 3-4 fields there. I mean, 3 or 4 or 5 different fields that you raced.
Right.
So,
but it looks like having so many fields didn't work out too good for me, especially in the beginning, because when you're a very fresh guy and when you have a very fresh race location, people don't know it, and a lot of times people need the reference to even show up.
It really is like starting a business, right? It's like when people haven't gone there and haven't gone and talked to somebody else and said this place is good, then people don't quite trust it. And I think my impression is you're a new guy in the scene. You have a different approach a little bit. You don't run the standard courses. I think a large percentage of people is very skeptical of that, right? First of all, not necessarily like, but the first instinct is to say, well, what is this race? And like, so many people are just used to Prospect Park, CSCA, Floyd Bennett, but anything outside of that is like, they don't even, it's not even on the radar for some of them. I think you have become, I think your race have become known enough now that I think people know about it. And I think Randall's Island especially is super convenient for people in Manhattan, right? And Queens, even Brooklyn.
Yeah. The thing is that people look at Randall's Island as more as a joke race, if they never tried it, because it's a smaller course, it's kind of narrow, and when they see that it's wavy, and especially if the camera on the bicycle mounted under the handlebar, it looks like those bollards on the side are so huge and dangerous, you know?
Yeah. There's like, we should say there's boulders on one part of the course, there's boulders on the right side. It's not a dangerous section. You shouldn't end up there. You could theoretically, but so I think every course is dangerous, but it can be, right?
To make it more safe, I bring the rock wool to protect people if, in case in the turn they will not be able to make it, that they will not hit the bare rock, and they will hit the rock wool instead, you know. But it's much more complicated setup compared to Floyd Bennett Field, because I have to cover that 6 holes from that little holes in the middle of the course.
I didn't know that. Okay. I have to confess, I've only raced there once because of timing mostly, and for me it's like on the other side of the city. But I don't remember that. So
You don't remember that because I covered them
yeah,
so
exactly.
good.
You covered them so well. Thank you.
Finish?
No, I still playing with it.
Yeah, yeah. You did. You must have covered them well because I don't remember that. Yeah.
Right.
Granted, maybe my memory's fading, but
Yeah,
I
I
remember
bought those very thick aluminum plates. Put the screws in them to hold them in place so they will not slide off, and I put the grip tape from the skateboard on top,
Oh, wow.
so it looks like asphalt, so people don't even notice it that
that.
much.
No, I remember when I organized the race. There was like there was one corner we had to do something similar because it was like a
Oh, that
grate.
metal plate, right?
No, it wasn't. It was the metal plate. It was
They've been
like
repaired.
in Arizona. It was just like a gutter, basically a rain gutter, and we had to do like a carpet. Anyway, long story, but it worked. It worked. Nobody complained about it in the end, and people
Right.
knew to be careful. But so I've seen your races grow a little bit. I think now you have like a digital clock there, and you have all kinds of cones, and you have a van that you come with, and there's all kinds of stuff in, and your races have a smaller field because they are smaller when you compare them to the park race in terms of the total number of participants. But I think, especially also with the Randall's Island thing, that's actually a good thing. When you have a group that's maybe 20, 30 riders, that's probably about the right size to have a good race on that course. I don't think it could handle 100 people, but it's really technical enough that you learn something as a bike rider. But if you have a smaller field like that, I think it's pretty safe. At least that was my impression. So.
I think that if you know what you're doing, any type of race is going to be quite safe. But, people are different. They have different opinions. Some people believe that larger race is more safe. Some people believe that smaller race is more safe. To me, literally at the Randall's Island, we didn't have any bad crashes and stuff like this. I think we had only one guy who fell off from the bicycle because he didn't realize that it's a turn and he hit the bowler, flipped over his front wheel, and ended up in the grass.
Okay.
But-
But grass, it should be okay.
Right, but that was only one time, and that was because it was already getting darker. It was like that last fifth gear field,
Yeah.
and that's when it happened. But overall, in general, all that wavy technical course really keeping people alert. So they don't start falling asleep on the bicycle and hit something like those large races at Prospect
I
Park
think
or Central Park.
Prospect Park or even Floyd Band, that could certainly happen because you're just like you're cruising on this endless straightaway, right? And you're like, I mean that was my last crash. I was on the long straightaway at Floyd Bennett, and I think I was grabbing a bottle. I wasn't like inattentive, but everybody kind of just passed the pothole, and I hit the pothole straight on, and I think I had a bottle in one hand, so I didn't have control, and then I went down. But like you said, I think there's different opinions on what's safe and what's not safe. I think you mentioned fixed gear, so you also try to do fixed gear. So you're really offering some fields and some courses that are new and are different. With the fixed gear especially, I think you're cooperating with someone there, or how did that come about? Because that's also not a standard thing. I think USAC requires still that you have to have at least one brake on it, right? So it's not fixed gear like Red Hook, but it's fixed gear.
No. The requirement from the USA Cyclone that it either have to be everyone with brakes or everyone without brakes. So
That must have
bicycles
changed.
should be equal.
Okay.
But,
Okay, maybe that changed that. Yeah.
But the thing is that when I contacted USA Cyclone to sanction fixed gear field, it took a very long time for them to figure out how to do it, what to put, what requirements and stuff like this, because it was literally so new for them that it's crazy. I had to call like 7 or 8 times.
Oh, so you pushed to make this happen? Because I back then I ran a fixed gear field too, but because the rule is you have to have at least one brake, that's how we did it. So we required everyone to have at least one brake on the bike. Anyway, so you're doing that.
But the thing is that
Go ahead.
USA Cycling is very narrow-minded organization. So they have like, okay, for road racing we have only criteriums and we have only road races, and it should be only road bikes and nothing else. So
Right.
they don't really recognize like gravel races. They don't really recognize fixed gear bicycles on the road. They like literally very like this is the border, don't step over.
Yeah. So,
So for
so USA Cycling, and I think I think that this is always. I'm listening to like a German podcast. They always complain about the German Federation. I think that is like a built-in conflict, right? Racers and race organizers want to do their thing, and the organization, and in some ways CRCA is the same way sometimes, right? You have to they have to hit the brakes and say, as an organization we can or we can't do that, and there's insurance that comes in and money and all that kind of stuff, politics. I think that's a natural kind of conflict and push and pull that happens, right? And you push a little bit and they say no, but maybe this, or in that way. Do you feel like being the new guy on the scene, you said like you kind of entered the scene kind of unplanned, or it wasn't really a long-term plan? You didn't have the connections to CRCA because your team was outside of CRCA, like other teams are too. Charlie's doing his own thing that's very established in Prospect Park. I think you again, you're the new kid on the block, right? And I think with that you need to build trust with the racers. And I think your Randall's Island races have gotten a lot of people to come, and I think you've gotten a lot of people. We talked about this a little bit before, that it's a different field. I think I see a lot of the same faces, but I also see faces that I don't necessarily see. Certainly not CRCA because you have to be a member, but also for the club races at least, right? Not for the open races, but also Prospect Park. There are a few different people, and the fixed gear field certainly brings new people, right? Is that part of your mission, or is that more just something that happens because you offer something different?
I think it's both.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm trying to make something more friendly for people and maybe slightly different, because it's boring to do those laps in the Prospect Park over and over and over and over and over again.
I think Charlie will be the first to recognize that Prospect Park is not the most challenging course, right?
Right.
It's a pretty, I would say it's reasonably. It can be very fun, but it can also, depending on what the field does, be kind of boring. Yeah, or not as challenging. Yeah.
Because you see, at Randall's Island, if you will not be able to make that turn, your race is going to turn into the triathlon,
Yeah, I mean, again, that turn forces you, especially if you're not, either you're good at cornering or you're not, which means you have to sprint to stay onto the field, right?
Right.
So, yeah. And even Central Park, you could probably get away without braking ever if it wasn't for other riders, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
So literally before races in New York City, been pretty much routine was Fort Benefield, Prospect Park, and Central Park, and those races are pretty much all the same. A slight difference, but
yeah, but I wouldn't disagree too much. Yeah, I think there's
Right.
differences, but only because we didn't know anything else. They feel very different to us.
Right.
But if you go outside the city, you're like, this is way. If you haven't done a crit outside the city, or even Orchard Beach or Grant's Tomb, or
Right.
and then a real road race out there, would feel very different.
Right,
Yeah.
and CRCA, it's a very great thing that CRCA does that annual races. I think
Mhm.
it's like 5 or 6 of them.
The open races, yeah.
Yeah, those open races
Which are for
very
everybody, not just
different
CRCA
from what
members.
we used to normally hear.
Mhm.
That's why they bring a lot of attention from everyone who lives in New York City, and you see like almost everyone participate in those.
Mhm. Yeah.
And my idea was also that we need more non-routine races
Mhm.
in New York City
Mhm.
to bring more people in. Because we need to approach them different. Everyone should be welcome. It's not like, oh, you're too slow, you are not welcome here. Oh, you're in the crappy clothes,
Right.
go away. Oh, your bike, nah, go away. Because I ride normally, like when I commute and stuff, I don't really need to like wear team clothes and stuff like this.
Right.
I still have those Chinese replicas I bought 15 years ago when I just came to United States, and they're still in a good
Holding
shape.
up pretty well. Yeah. Okay.
Right, because I'm very careful with everything, trying to not break it.
Yeah.
So when I show up in those replicas from 15 years ago, and people see it and they think like, who is this homeless guy? We don't know you. So it was funny that I was already Cat 3, and I went to Inwood, Fort Tryon Park, Inwood Park, something like that. And over there is a little bridge to the Bronx.
Okay.
But I couldn't figure out how to get there.
Okay.
So I saw them in the end of the bike path by the highway, and I was like, "Oh, guys, can you please show me how to get there?" And they're like, "Okay, we will show you, but make sure you don't follow us right after we cross the bridge, because we are going far away, and I don't think that you can keep up with us." I was like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So approach like this turns off a lot of people from joining or from continue racing bicycle.
Yeah.
And literally, I really hope that over some time we will be able to change the approach how people dealing with public, because a lot of times I ride, especially when I used to ride a lot at the 9W and stuff like this. People get back over George Washington Bridge tired from riding all the way from Bear Mountain or from Nyack and stuff like this, and they're already physically exhausted, which also makes them emotionally kind of unstable.
Yeah.
And then they start flickering their fingers and stuff like this. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's how you approach the public?
Yeah.
So what public will think about you?
Yeah.
And what public will think about you as a sport, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They will think like, oh, all those cyclists, how they call it, in spandex, what was that?
There's some sort of expression, spandex. Anyway, yeah. But the point, I think, and I get this a lot in the conversations too that I'm having with other people. I think we need to be kinder to newcomers in the scene to cycling, and really make more of a conscious effort. But we also need to, as cyclists, be better to people who are not on bikes sometimes. I think we need to also look at ourselves, even though I think there's in a lot of ways the city is not easy on cyclists, right? And it's dangerous or it's threatening in some situations. I think we as cyclists can also do better to improve our perception from people from the outside.
Right, but the thing is that what is the most important is that you see this guy flicker a finger to the car, for example, right? Mm-hmm. And he's riding with his friends and teammates, and those people pretend that nothing happened, and that's the very wrong way to do it. If you see that the guy who is considered to your friend or teammate did something wrong like that, and did something to public wrong, you have to get on top of him and give him a hard time to make sure that next time this person doesn't do such thing. Mm-hmm. Because he may be your friend and stuff like this, but at the same time you guys representing a whole sport. Mm-hmm. And when people just regular bicycle racer, okay, he has some value about how he represents the sport. When he becomes a team captain, then he represents the sport much more, but much more responsibilities and much more duties falls on him. So now he has to watch out much more what he is doing and how he is doing and what he is saying and stuff. Then when you start organizing bicycle races, it's the next level.
Yep, I agree with you. Yep.
when you're organizing bicycle races, you can't act the same way as you used to act as a regular member of the team or unattached cyclist.
Yeah,
You know?
especially unattached. Yeah.
Right. You're under magnifying glass.
Yeah.
And right now, if I will say something wrong,
Yeah.
they will be talking about it years after that, you know?
So let's get practical here for a minute. There was, and I don't want to get too deep into that if you don't want to talk about either. A few weeks ago, there was some, I want to call it underground racing in inverted commas going on in the city. And we don't even need to say where exactly and who exactly and all that. It's labeled underground racing, but I think part of the problem is that it had become not underground anymore and had just gotten too much attention. With like on social media, on YouTube videos and all of it, and you know, and that gets people's attention because, like you said, people chime in, and then organizations. CRCA made a very clear statement. For example, they said we don't want any of our members to be at this underground race because it's not sanctioned, and it's like you said, it reflects badly on the club, right? And CRCA, of course, like Charlie too. They're worried about their position in terms of access to the park, which I think we all, well, certainly if we see a CRCA member, but also we value, and I think the community wants to protect. At least that part of the community wants to protect. And if you're new and you're doing these underground races, you may not be that aware of all these politics going on. I think we can talk about the statement, we can talk about the way it came across, but we can also talk about how these underground races come across. So what's your position on that? Because you were, I think, a race promoter who's pushing a little bit more too to open up courses and open up different forms of racing. So I personally, right, I'm like, I want people to have places to practice and race, but I'm also like, I used to race that's at night. And there's other park users, and especially with COVID, there's a lot of people in the park. Ultimately, I say, I also don't want to support it. Like, maybe I'm not going to go there and say, you stop doing what you're doing, but I'm worried and I'm skeptical. Maybe I feel like, well, we're talking a lot about responsibility. Maybe I should be saying something out loud and saying, yeah, these races shouldn't be happening. But then I'm also cutting off an access point to the sport, right? Which is often an access point for people who can't afford the races because these underground races often don't cost anything. You have fixed gear riders next to regular road races, which in some people's eyes makes it very dangerous. I kind of agree. You have a very mixed bunch, right? From like fairly experienced riders to completely new. You have maybe fewer rules because there isn't an official. All of that makes it easier and simpler to run the races and maybe creates a really great entry point to the sport. But at the same time, those who are established say this is endangering what we're doing, the type of race we're doing. So this is tricky, right? And
yeah,
what is your thought? What are your thoughts?
I personally think that maybe we should bring all these questions in a different video, because I see you're already shaking from cold.
I'm shaking a little bit for sure because I'm cold, but I think I'm actually quite comfortable temperature-wise. I get this reaction from my body sometimes. It's going to be a timing issue more because of the video.
Right. I believe that it's going to take us some time to.
It is a complex issue. That's why I usually do these long videos, and maybe we'll do another one.
But I personally believe that those unsanctioned races without permits, they don't affect sanctioned races anyhow, because park itself, management is aware of what's going on. Trust me, they know everything.
And I want to see very clearly that Alex is not an organizer of an unsanctioned race.
Right.
So,
well, I did organize. Officially, it's unsanctioned race that time trial at Rockaway.
That was unsanctioned. Okay.
But I did speak with police department, and I did speak with the community.
Okay. And unsanctioned means, so in that sense, it was unsanctioned by USA Cycling.
Right.
But you did talk to authorities, so which is different, I think, from the races that we're talking about, which are, I don't know, maybe you know more. And again, maybe there is some communication with authorities too there. But they're certainly not USAC sanctioned, which again, I think they don't have to be USAC sanctioned to be safe.
Right.
That's what I first of all want to say. I think there's plenty of races around the country, a lot of the gravel races actually that are not USAC sanctioned, right? But it's more of communicating with the park and communicating with authorities. But you did that with the time trial. So let's come back real quick. You see that the authorities and those in charge can clearly separate the underground races from the official races, and
Right.
what happens there is not necessarily going to reflect negatively on the
Because
official
they
races.
mostly separate by companies or people who are organizing races versus of sport in general.
So we got cut off again. Lucky 13 here, 13th episode. But I think it's a combination of temperature and we're just having a good conversation. But we need to wrap it up, and we will come back with Alex. 2021. What would you like to do, assuming vaccine, all that maybe in March, April, May, somewhere around there we can start racing again, assuming that.
So far, I'm making plans for the first half of the season, as races must be running under current situation with Corona. So it means that social distancing. It means that no mass starts possible, because even the duathlon race in the Prospect Park at November 1st, Park gave him permission and email to send out people in up to 20 people groups. But day of the race, they changed their mind and they told him that send people one by one.
Okay.
He actually forwarded me that email for different reasons, but I saw that. Because I've been trying to help him out with that race a little bit, because I have time, I have some race equipment, and I see around what else I can do, just and I think for the beginning of the season we will have only social distancing races, which is individual time trials pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that I'm going to start season a little bit later than usual, which is going to be probably April.
Okay.
I will look around what type of races, what race locations are suitable for that type of
and where you can get a permit.
Races, right? So because I can do every week individual time trial at Beach Channel Drive, but it's going to be boring.
Yeah. People want something different, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So literally, I making plan right now. I'm making schedule for where our races will be possible, and I think in a week or two I'm going to start sending requests for the permits.
Okay.
I don't think that many people are going to send permit requests to the park. I'm very glad to know that at least CRCA and Charlie sent their request to the park, so it means that they're hoping that they're going to have races.
They're planning for it to happen,
right?
At some point, yeah. So you feel like you can do that, and maybe start a little bit later, maybe time trials first, but something's going to happen.
Right. I will try to make it more interesting, because just time trial is a little bit boring. I know that people had a very great time before race and after the race, hanging out with each other and
stuff. I think especially when people miss that for a while, right? Even though everybody has a mask on, it's cold, and you're standing outside, which is, in the end, for all we know, reasonably safe. I think people liked just being out on the bike, and even though they were doing individual, time trial competition, which not everybody knows, I think a lot of people hate, and I get that. I think people felt like it was good to do something, right?
So I think that hopefully by the end of the season we will be able to get back to maybe smaller field races. So I'm not really sure how it's going to look like Prospect Park and Central Park, because when you have 100 people at the start line, I don't think that park will allow such a large mass starts right away.
No,
I think it's going to be a process of.
I would agree.
And if they will allow up to 20 people, then I guess the only option is Randall's Island, because over there we can possibly get a whole day permit.
fields of 20 all day.
Right.
That'll be different. I'd be curious about that.
Right.
So maybe we'll end here. Fields of 20 all day. Could be. Maybe something revolutionary. Or maybe we'll be back to the old stuff, but maybe not until late in the year. We'll find out. Alex, thank you for the work you do. I promise you we'll do sometime probably in 2020 another one where we can go more into depth with some of the... there's so much. This was enjoyable. I wish you all the best of luck with your races. I wish you all of the... We got a good send-off here. I think we're definitely supposed to stop. I wish you all the best of luck navigating the politics of the New York City. Like you said, it's a small community, and I think when you're somebody new comes in with like different ideas and you're not attached to kind of the big established clubs, it's harder. It's more difficult. You're gonna rub some elbows and shoulders, but I think you bring a different perspective, and I think that is good because, like several of the people I've talked to here, I've had somebody else, and she's seen the interview with Jessica. She's new too, and nobody who's new is necessarily bringing everything that's perfect, but you bring in some ideas, you're pushing people to think differently and maybe also wake up a little bit. And that's really, I think, stimulating for the community as a whole. Even though sometimes they are right, sometimes you're right, sometimes it's in the middle, right? And I think that's really contributing to the conversation. So thank you for that. I'll give you
Thank you for inviting me. It was quite unexpected because, you know, usually people only looking at the biggest organizations, and such a small guy like me, I was like, what? You invited me for an interview? I was like, no, first time ever.
First time ever. Well, that's the first time ever. First time I ever, yeah. So the goal really is to highlight the diversity also in the community, and again, I think you're a really important piece and have become very quickly here, because anybody who's leading a team honestly is an important piece. Anybody who's organizing is an important piece. And I want to have more and more different people on the team. So maybe some of your team members too, who are maybe newer beginners. We'll see what happens. You'll see it on here. Thank you.
All right.